Hi Revolutionaries, it's Hayley Bozovsky from Hello Revolutionary. If you don't know who I am, I'm a female entrepreneurship coach. I work with women to turn their passion into profit and create freedom-based businesses. And each week we publish a short little video on every Thursday. So if you aren't subscribed, make sure you do. Click below and subscribe to this channel. Or if you're on the blog, subscribe on there too. And make sure that you get them all in your inbox as soon as they're released. And the aim of these videos is really to equip your mind for success and get your subconscious on board with your goals. And this week is no different. And we're going to be talking about how you can keep your emotions in control and how your beliefs empower your emotions and your behaviors. And the reason why I decided to do this video is because about 3 weeks ago, I was on the phone to a client of mine, a new client, who had launched an online training program to her community. And let's just say the launch hadn't quite gone to plan. So she wanted some coaching around her next launch and how we can get that one to be a lot more successful than the last one. And also there were some mindset issues as well, which she knew I specialised in. So we began working with each other. And on the phone, she said something to me that really stuck with me. So I wanted to talk to you about it today. Was she said, Hayley, it's all right for you. You know, you don't feel fear and anxiety. And you can kind of forgive her for thinking that, because a lot of the videos that I publish are around how when we step out of our comfort zone and go into the stretch zone, actually fear and anxiety is a normal emotion that we're going to come up, that we're going to experience. And a lot of my videos are about how we can overcome that, how we can get it, how we can get more control on it, or how we can come more alongside it. So she had this impression that as somebody who teaches a lot on fear and anxiety, that I was teaching from a place of no longer experiencing it. And I want to say that's not the case at all, and that really isn't the aim of these videos. The aim of these videos isn't to create these kind of superhuman kind of female entrepreneurs who never feel fear and anxiety. That's not the case at all. And actually, if you're not experiencing fear and anxiety, it probably means that you're probably in your comfort zone a little bit too much and need to step out a little bit. However, we all know the debilitating aspects and repercussions and consequences of fear and anxiety, and that's what we want to mitigate against. So I'm not interested in creating these superhumans who never experience any negative emotions. That's unattainable. That's perfection, and we know perfection's unattainable. I'm more interested in what your recovery rate is. And I would say that as somebody who really does practice what they preach, I really don't ever communicate anything on video or to any of my clients that I haven't really experimented with in my own life as well and seen results from. So as somebody who really does practice what I preach, I really have noticed that not that I'm never experiencing fear and anxiety or negative emotions, just that my recovery rate has got a damn sight better and a damn sight faster. So what do I mean by that? I mean that when fear comes in and a belief comes into your life, what happens? How do you choose to respond to that? So what I mean is that a belief may come in that you're not good enough. You're never going to achieve what it is that you think you want to achieve. You're incapable of achieving that. You've never amounted to much in your life. You were never particularly academic. What are you thinking? Who are you kidding trying to go after these goals and dreams that you have? Well, of course, then in comes fear, anxiety, and slowly you kind of sit with this emotion. It sends you on a downward spiral, and you suddenly realise, well, what is the point in me even embarking on this? What's the point in me even trying? So when beliefs come in and then the associated emotions come in, what do? Do you let them submerge into your thought world and send you in this downward spiral? And do you choose to give them power and respond to them by saying, do you know what? My dreams and visions, they can stay dreams and visions. I'm going to back away from the table now, because my emotions have allowed them and given them control. Or are you somebody who recognises that belief coming in, feels the emotions coming in, and suddenly starts to get curious about it? Where has that belief come in? So that belief that's telling you you're incapable of achieving anything, has it actually got any truth? I bet it hasn't. I bet there is things that you have achieved in your life. Also, where has it come from? Is there a distant figure in your past, an individual that you maybe don't even see anymore, who first planted that in you? Maybe it's a teacher, an old teacher, or an old school friend, or somebody, an ex-boyfriend, or maybe a parent, or somebody from your past, or somebody even in your present who's feeding you this belief and reinforcing this belief. So I've been using this model, which I'm going to share with you now, that's really helped me get control over my feelings and my beliefs in my life, and has therefore really changed the way that I interact with the world around me, and meant that I can get myself much more on board with my visions and my goals, rather than allowing my false beliefs and my negative emotions drag me further and further away from my goals and visions. Now, I can't take credit for this model of thinking. It was devised by the founder of CBT therapy, and it's called the ABCDE model, and I'm going to talk through it now. And it all starts off with, I've got some notes here, so if you see my eyes flipping, that's why I'm there are post-it notes stuck to my laptop. But I want to make sure I get it right for you guys. So it's, first of all, there's an A. There is an activating event or an adversity. So let's put a scenario through this so that we can actually see it in real world. Let's imagine that somebody has started a crowdfunding campaign for a new product that they're developing, and the crowdfunding campaign fails, doesn't meet its target. So the activating event or the adversity is that your crowdfunding campaign failed. That then triggers B, which is the belief that you hold about that event. It might be here that this is where, well, you've never achieved anything in your life. You're not capable of being successful. Who were you to think that you could do this? Well, nobody wants your product anyway. In fact, nobody wants anything you've ever got to offer. C, the consequences of believing that belief is that you feel utterly deflated and demotivated to pick yourself back up again. You believe in all those beliefs that you've hold, and you don't believe you're capable of achieving anything. And the consequence of that, the real world consequence, is that you never put yourself forward again. So that product is dead in the water. You never start a crowdfunding campaign again, and you have had all the beliefs that you had about yourself reinforced by that event. So nobody wants anything you've got to offer. That belief has just been reinforced by your crowdfunding campaign not taking off. But the model doesn't stop there. We've still got D and E, and this is, so ABC is how far most people get with their thinking. Something happens, it drags up a load of really negative beliefs that we hold about ourselves, and then we act upon those negative beliefs, or we feel upon those negative beliefs. And that's where most people get to. They sit there and they go through life going ABC, ABC, ABC. Event happens, horrible belief pops in, we believe that horrible belief and we act upon it. And that's where most people go. Where the change and where the magic really happens is when you start engaging with the next two steps, D and E. So D is that you look at the belief and you start to dispute and challenge it. So let's take that belief that no one wants anything that you've ever put into the world. So you start to look at, well, actually, where have people wanted what I've put into the world? Well, I've been employed in the past, so that means that I must have been good at my job, and people have employed me because they've wanted the skill set that I've brought to it. Oh, well, some people funded the campaign, so some people must be interested in it. So you start to get curious about that belief, and you start to dispute it and argue with it and contradict it and bring in, start to recognise where it's an irrational belief. And you just really start to get curious about its origins. Has that been told to you? Has somebody planted that in your thinking? Where has that belief come from? Have a think about where the first time you remember thinking that belief. Was it that it was on the school playground? That's the first memory you have of that. What triggered that event? And then can you see it just recurring throughout your life from that point? And then the next step is E, where you start to develop new effective beliefs about that scenario. So an effective belief that would rewrite the I've got nothing to offer to the world kind of belief, or nobody wants what I've got, is actually this was a learning curve because some people did fund it. I do have value to offer to the world. I just need to learn how to package it in a way where people can really see the value of it better than what I've currently done. And a really good example of this is where I've seen it playing out in my life just in the last week, is that the other week I noticed that my YouTube clips weren't getting any hits. And I felt this old fear come in that, Hayley, nobody's interested in what you've got to say. And that's a fear that I have lived with and that I've really battled with over the years. And that fear suddenly came in, and in the past that has caused me to stop projects dead in their track. I had an old blog that I just suddenly took down after posting a few blog posts because I didn't think people were engaging with them, and I just took it straight down, didn't even get curious about that belief. And I noticed the other week that my videos weren't getting as much views as what I was expecting, and this old belief popped in. And I put this model into practice and I started to get curious. I was like, well, actually, no, people are getting value from them because they're emailing me. And I'm seeing 1 or 2 people subscribing, and I'm seeing a couple of people commenting. So people are watching them, and people are retweeting my tweets and sending me direct messages on Twitter saying how helpful it was, and emailing me on Facebook and various other things. So people are watching them. So I started to get really curious about why the viewing figures had frozen. Now, I didn't know that this is something YouTube does occasionally. They freeze your viewing figures to validate your viewers, because apparently some people pay for robots to watch their videos. Why do that? I don't understand that. But anyway, people do that. But I didn't know this. So, of course, YouTube's frozen all my viewing figures for my whole channel until they can validate them. Now, this is quite normal, apparently, but like I say, I didn't know. And until I got curious about this belief, I would never have known that. So actually, I was working off a false assumption. And how often do we operate on false assumptions? So what I want you to do is to think about something that's happening in your life that's currently triggering a negative emotion. And have a think about, get clear on really what is the activating event. Is it every time your boss walks into the office? Is it every time you've got to give a presentation? Is it every time you've got to pitch for new business? Is it every time you've got to close a sale on a call? Is it every time you've got to market yourself? So get clear on what the activating event is. Don't just say it's my business or it's my job. Get really clear on what the activating event is. Then get clear about what's the belief that you are holding, okay? So is it that you believe that your presentation style isn't as professional as your colleagues and everyone's going to compare you to your colleague? Is it that you think after that one meeting with your boss that didn't go so well, they've now really got it in for you? Is that what you believe? So now every time you see them, you feel dread and anxiety, and you feel that they just don't like you and that they've really got it in for you? Is it that you feel whenever you're going to charge for your services that people are going to turn you away and reject you because they don't believe that there's any value in what you're offering? So get really clear on what the beliefs that you're holding about that activating event are. Then start thinking through, well, what's the consequences? How do I then feel as a result? How do I then behave as a result? What are my actions? What's the impact that this is having on my life? And get really clear about that. So that's your C, consequences. Your D is then jump back up to the belief and get really clear and start disputing these beliefs. Start looking at where they come from. Sorry, sirens, can't get rid of them. Start assessing how much of an irrational belief this one is that you're holding, and start disputing it. And it might be that you want to write down on a list of paper at the top, write down the belief, and then in the bottom, start disputing it. So start rewriting that belief in a more positive way. And then E, this is when you then start rewriting it in a more positive way. You start replacing it with a new belief. So I now know that when certain things happen in my business and it triggers an emotional response or a belief pops up in my head, I've now got other beliefs that come into my head that replace that negative belief and mean that I have got much more control over my emotions and my actions and my behaviours, because I'm not letting my emotions control me. But also it means that I'm choosing how to respond to that activating belief. I'm not allowing that activating belief to control my responses, because we're not like everything else in the animal kingdom. We do have a choice how we want to respond. So always be thinking, how am I feeling and how am I choosing to respond to this? So that's called the ABCDE model, and do try and keep it in your mind. And I'd love to know, I'd love to hear from you below. Comment what are some of the negative things, what are some of the things in your life that are triggering negative emotional responses. So do make sure you comment. I'd love to hear from you. And then I'd love to also hear the more effective new beliefs that you've brought in to counteract the negative ones. So that's all this week, guys. Do subscribe, click the subscribe button below so that you get all the future ones coming up. It's New Year coming up soon. We're going to have lots of opportunity to reinvent ourselves, change ourselves, get our goals written down and start striving towards them. So do make sure that you're getting these doses, because they're going to help you in that process. Okay, bye for now, guys.